Welcome to VintageDrumsTalk.com. Jim Messina here. Once again, you've reached our live interviews page, and I got to tell you, I'm really excited today because the person that I've got to talk with today is just an icon in drum manufacturing and vintage drum manufacturing, to tell you the truth. Some of you may not know him, but I'm sure many of you have seen the product that he produced that became almost an icon in modern drumming. Been played by people like Billy Cobham, Alan White. I speak of none other than Roger North of the North Drum Company. Say hello, Roger, to the vintage drum community.
Hi, folks. I can't see you all out there, but I hope there's a number of you.
Well, they're watching us, Roger, and they want to hear what we've got to say. We did part one, and as I promised, we were going to have a little interview here with Roger North himself. This has been 2 years waiting, boy. Haven't we been working on this a long time, Roger?
Yeah, we have, because I've been kind of reluctant to do it, I guess.
Well,
but,
I think it's your out-and-out celebrity.
I'm into it now.
Well, he's got that reclusive kind of thing up there in the Pacific Northwest.
That's right.
But I'm so glad to finally be connecting with you. I feel like I know you already. We've done a lot of emailing back and forth, and finally we're going to get to some talking for all the folks out there in the vintage drum community. I think we should just start from the top. There are some things, Roger, that I never knew about you, and I think a lot of other people didn't know this, that you went to MIT, didn't you?
I did go to MIT. I actually went to undergraduate at Swarthmore College in Pennsylvania, and then went up to MIT and went to got my master's degree in engineering in 1967 in Boston. So that's how I got to Boston.
And at that time, you had no idea that you were going to use that to design a revolutionary type of drum, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know how much I actually used my engineering education. I expect that the mindset had something to do with it, rather than the very specific things. You know, because what I learned in school was how to design buildings. You know,
right,
skyscrapers and things like that. So. Bridges, so you know it wasn't directly transferable, but the mindset was there. You know, the building thing was there.
So, at that time, you were playing drums, right?
I played drums. I've been playing drums all the way since sixth grade. You know, and then I started playing in rock and roll bands in high school, and I played in the rock and roll bands all through college, and kind of. In 1967, when I was almost done with MIT, then I started playing in some bands up in Boston, and you know, kind of got more and more heavily into the music scene. And to tell you the truth, I was kind of tired of school by that time, and the music industry lured me away.
Now, let me ask you: at that time, what gear were you using? What drum sets were you playing? Did you have just one, or were you playing various sets?
Well, no, I had a set. I still have it, in fact.
Really?
Set up in my basement. I had a set of Slingerland drums that I bought, you know, sort of piecemeal when I was in high school. So, you know, ranging from probably 1959 to 62, I was buying these drums. So I had this really nice set of old Slingerland drums, you know, and I still have them. And they're beautiful drums. I really like them.
Gosh, I'd like to see those because in the vintage realm, that's what we're interested in. Stuff from 57, 60s, you know.
Black pearl.
Okay.
You know.
Black diamond pearl, probably.
Good drums. Kind of nice thin shells, so they're real resonant, you know. I've always liked them.
Well, maybe we can get a picture of those, and we'll put it up here, you guys. I'm sure you'd all like to see Roger's set that he was tooling around with in those days. So then from there...
I got a picture here. I'll send you a picture of me playing them.
Oh, fantastic. I want to see that. So...
It was a double kick. It ended up being a double kick set, you know, Ginger Baker style. Yeah, they were good. Anyway.
So who influenced you at that time? Speaking of Ginger Baker, I mean, I noticed
Ginger Baker was my hero, you know. I mean, he's the one that really kind of got sort of brought the art of drumming to me. I mean, I kind of like the jazz drummers, like Buddy Rich and people like that. But Ginger Baker was the one who came along that really. We actually played in. I was in this band in Boston called Catharsis, and we played a gig at a club up there called the Psychedelic Supermarket. And we played for 4 nights with opening for Cream when they first came to the United States, and there was like 50 people in the audience. You know, I mean, nobody knew who the heck they were, and it was just a really amazing experience. You know, so that actually had a big influence on me.
Now, from there,
and I talked to him. We talked to him all backstage and everything, and I gave them a ride to their hotel after the gig and everything. It was like a big deal. I mean, they certainly don't remember. Maybe they do because it was their first time in the United States.
I think
it was like
by now,
a little tiny gig at that point. So
yeah,
but it was interesting. They were great.
So from there, now I would like to know, when does the Quill Band come into thing? Years
right
later?
Right after that was that probably happened in '67 or something. I don't know. And then Quill was the next band after that. Not pretty shortly after that. So Quill was happening in probably 1968, '69.
Now, what interests me, and I've been doing some research, the last few days here, Roger, so there's some things I didn't know about the Quill Band, or even about your beginnings in music. But playing for this band, you ended up playing, am I right about this, at Woodstock?
Yeah, we played at the Woodstock Festival. That was kind of late in the Quill career. And by the way, I was in Quill when I first started conceived of making these drums and built the first ones. And actually, when we played Woodstock, I had I think 2. I had the initial prototype, the single one, and there was one other one that was kind of an experimental shape that it wasn't really a successful experiment. But I had them in my sort of mixed into my drum set.
Now, what I saw, I did some searching around, and I found some things on YouTube of that exact day. Somebody's been putting them up there, but I also found some still shots, and in one of them, there it is. I could swear I see the curvature. I'm thinking that's got to be the one. Is that your first one that you ever made?
Let's see. I'm looking at the picture. Yeah, there were 2 of them actually. The picture I have on my wall is a picture of us on stage, and the 2 drums were actually out in front of my drum set because we did this kind of thing where some of the other guys in the band played on the toms and everything. And so
what I saw, the drum looked like it was out in front of your bass drum. I'm thinking, how does he reach that? You'd have to stand up and lean over and play.
I had put them out. They had put them out there so that the singer could play them.
Okay.
And, we had this kind of percussion thing that we did. And,
I heard about that Quill would pass out percussion instruments to the audience. And
in fact, one time we were doing that it was probably before Woodstock, but we were doing this passing out of the instruments deal at this club in Boston called the Boston Tea Party, and it was probably stupid, but I would take those drums and give them out to somebody in the audience, to bang on, and the doorman actually caught somebody walking out the door with that initial prototype,
and he didn't make it,
and got it, got it back.
Wow. So, now, let me ask you about that initial prototype.
So I didn't give those drums to the audience after that.
So these are the ones that. So you're saying you made 2 first, or 1?
Well, there was 1. Initially, it was just 1 drum.
Okay.
Because well, let me tell you how the whole thing started. We were when I was in Quill, we were playing a concert in Boston at the Music Hall Theater. And I did some research today and looked, and it was in 1968.
Uh-huh.
and we were opening for the Who,
The Who?
and
Huh?
I hadn't made the drums yet, but we were doing this concert. And, I had my drums set up on the stage, and I was playing around on them. And at that time, I was really into soloing and doing a lot of kind of pretty subtle acoustic stuff on the drums,
Yeah.
and it meant a lot to me about how they sounded. And at one point, I went out and sat when we were, in the afternoon when we were setting up and sound checking and everything. And I went out in the front of the concert, out into the seats, and somebody else was playing my drums, and I was listening to him, and I'm saying, "Geez, I don't hear any of that stuff that I hear while I'm playing."
So it didn't sound the same
different.
from where you were
Totally
sitting.
different.
Huh.
And they weren't mic'd yet, they didn't have the mics set up yet. But I was just like bummed out by the fact that they were just so much was lost, So, and really that was the day that I decided, well, maybe I can do something with the shells, with the shape of the shells, a megaphone type thing that actually reflects the sound straightforward rather than like having to bounce off the ground and off the,
So this is the moment.
or
This
whatever,
This is the inception.
So that some of this stuff that the drummer is hearing is actually getting out there to the people that are listening to it. So I mean that literally was the day that I kind of got the idea, and then it, from there it kind of developed. But I remember specifically that concert was the one.
Now we have, you sent me some interesting photos recently that pertains to just what we're talking about right now, because I believe in this particular picture that I'm going to put up right now is this drum that you're talking about, this very prototype that you made, and it's a shot from the Dave Garroway show. Why don't you tell us about that? And I see the quill on your bass drum. I've seen this. In fact, aren't those the two bass drums that you use at Woodstock?
Let me find that picture.
Well, it has the quill logo, and then the right one is like an eyeball or something. But I noticed them as being the same.
That's the whole Slingerland set.
Yeah.
With the prototype in front of it.
What size are those? Are those 20 inches or 22s? The bass drums.
It's a 20 and a 22.
Okay, and right dead center between like what is it, two mounted toms? This must be the first North drum you made.
Yeah, it is. It's a 12-inch head. It had if I remember correctly, it had a 20-inch opening.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and the opening, the bell looks the same size as your kick drum.
Yeah, as a small kick drum.
So this is a black and white photo we're looking at here. Everybody can see this now. Everybody see how that looks? That it almost looks like you can see the light shining through it.
Yeah, well, it's just raw fiberglass. There was no pigmentation.
So
on
what
it or anything.
color
I mean,
was
it was interesting how when I got the idea to do this, I just kind of, it wasn't, like I said before, it wasn't really engineered at that point. It was like I know basically what I wanted to do, and how am I going to build this thing, And I didn't have any money at the time, and I can't spend a lot of money on molds, and I didn't know much about fiberglass, but I knew that it was a process that I always call it the poor man's plastic, because you can work with it without any really expensive, die casting molds and injection molds and things like that. You can actually build the molds out of fiberglass, which I didn't know at the time. When I built my first pattern out of, I made a pattern of what is the inside of the drum out of basically plaster of Paris.
Interesting.
And, I remember I made a bunch of I figured out what the shape was going to be in the cross section and built kind of a spine down the middle
Okay.
for the pattern with the shape, and then I cut out half circles of like particle board, like what do you call it, masonite.
Yeah, yeah.
Cut out very increasing diameters of half circles, and fastened them to this spine that was down the middle, and sort of built a skeleton of that shape.
Uh-huh.
I remember I had it hanging from the when I was building it. I had it hanging from the lamp over my bed. From the string from the lamp. It was hanging up there, and it looked like this weird kind of space platform. It's like, wow. I would just lay there and look at it, kind of, and people would come in and go, wow, what is that? And my bandmates would say, that is really cool. That is really interesting.
Did they know what you were doing?
And then I filled in all the spaces with plaster and sanded it and made it relatively smooth. It wasn't that smooth. And then it just laid the fiberglass around it on top of it. Had to destroy the pattern to get it out of the inside of the drum. And then the outside was just really rough because I'd laid the fiberglass on top, so I sanded that and in the process basically ruined this apartment we were living in Boston at the time.
So the end result was this just plain looking raw shape that you had in your mind, right? And it came out like almost like a tuba, hornbell, and then you had to drill it for some hardware. And did you just get any generic hardware or find old Slingerland?
Well,
or what did you use?
I went to the music store. I think I forget what the name of the music store was in Boston, but I just went down there and bought some hardware. I got a rim, I think that was a die-cast rim of some sort. I think it had 5. Looking at the picture, it looks like it's got a lug in the front. So
I see the one in the front.
Yeah, 5 holes, 5 lug attachments.
I see.
And so I got that. But I actually, I took it out of the mold and I was going to paint it, and I was looking at it. I said, this actually looks pretty cool the way it is.
Yeah.
It almost looked like an oyster shell or something.
Yeah.
It had that sort of translucent quality to it.
So how long did you end up using this? How long did you end up using this particular first North drum?
Probably until, I used that until probably 1973 or something when I started making.
Okay, in our picture here, in our Dave Garraway show picture here, it says June 4th, 1969. So how long had you already been using this one drum?
I don't know. I think I probably finished it probably sometime in 1968, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but that's interesting. We are looking at the very first one, and I think that's a good place to cut it off here because, we're going to do this in another segment, folks, with Roger North. Time goes fast when you're having fun, right, Roger? And these guys are hungry to know all about the whole Roger North story, and we're going to give it to them in just a little bit. Stay tuned for Part 3, Vintage Drums Talk. Thanks, guys. Stick with us. We'll be right back with more of the story with Roger North, right from his own mouth. We'll see you in a few minutes.